One of the things that I work a lot with my clients is that feeling of how do I put all of this data, all of this messy results, all of these things that are sort of disconnected and put it into something that makes sense, into a paper I can write, into a thesis I can write, submit, and then defend, and so on. So this is something that I feel it's not talked about enough, because in the research community in general, especially within academia, you are supposed to sort of do research for the sake of research on one hand, be excited and be curious about it and be really I just want to find out how this mechanism works, of how this thing functions and why does it happen this way and so on. And on the other hand, you have this culture of urgency, that everything has to be done yesterday, that you have to publish I don't know how many papers in a year and so on. So how do you make sense, I would say, of those two worlds in which on one hand everyone is sort of romanticizing research, I would say, and saying that you should do it for the sake of curiosity, but on the other hand, you know that your reward, your funding, your status in academia basically depends on how much you published, how much you are working, how much you are producing, I would say, rather than working, because we know that in research you can work for days, months, I would say years, and not have anything tangible to prove for it. But that's sort of the point. So how do we make sure that we are making sense of our data in a world that we live in, which is deadlines and finishing thesis and finishing papers and so on? So if you feel that your research is never going to be done, and I have these conversations all the time with my clients, one thing that really works is giving yourself a sense of what is done for you. Because if you keep chasing this experiment, if you keep chasing that analysis, I mean, we all know that you can plan for days and experiment for months, and then when it's time to you think you control everything, but then you realize that you cannot control everything, that there are some stuff that just simply won't work because they won't work. So you cannot put your, I would say, happiness into the fact whether an experiment is going to work or not, whether data is going to show something that you want or not, or confirm your hypothesis or reject it and so on. So a good thing and a good strategy when you are in this mess is to really put some structure in it and start defining and start making sense of the things that you already have, because this is something that you can control actually. So in all of that fake feeling of control, the real things that you can control is the results that you already have, the data you already have, and try to make sense of it. And when you are doing that in your to-do list, when you are listing your tasks for the week, it is always very useful to put in something tangible, doable, and finishable, which means, with a very, very blunt example, not finish that experiment, because what does it mean, finish that experiment? That's something you cannot control. That's something you cannot make sure it will work, no matter how much you prepared beforehand. But you can say something like, I want to run this experiment 3 times this week. This is something that is much more tangible, and it will give you a sense of control that we mostly lack in research, especially if our results are all over the place, if we don't know what is our next step, if we are sort of, I would say, lost in our own research, which is the good side and at the same time the bad side of it. So having said that, if you feel that you are completely lost with your research, if you feel that you just don't know what your next step should be, you have a few results here, a few results there, but somehow you struggle of making sense of all of it, and that really slows down your progress when it comes to writing your thesis, progressing with your research, or maybe progressing with your paper or whatever it is that you are working on right now, I want to tell you that this is exactly what I help PhD students with. So we work together in order to make sure that your research is going somewhere, whether that destination is your thesis, your paper, or you just want to put some structure into it. So if you are in that kind of fog, if your supervisor is nowhere to be seen and you basically don't have anyone to talk to about your research, if you just want to brainstorm your ideas, make sure that you have some structure, that you know that you have a clear plan to finish your thesis, to submit, to write, finish and submit, I want to invite you to schedule a completely free intro coaching call with me. I will leave a link down below where you can schedule it. And in that intro call, we can discuss exactly where you're at with your research, what are your current struggles, what are your current challenges, and of course, see if we are a good fit to work together, to progress, and to make sure that you finally write that thing up, finish it, and eventually defend it. So I hope that you found this video useful, and as always, see you in the next few days with another video. Bye bye.